was existing since May. May to December. Is it too short to measure if smuggling has reduced or not? Because smuggling, smuggling is an objective number you can calculate. So we don't even have to do a theory around it.
What I wanted to establish is that you cannot solve smuggling with that kind of institutional innovation that...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if there's a disparity between what is produced and what is officially recorded as the amount you get from selling
the only way we find that out in the Swiss Aid report is that you go to Dubai, you go to Sharjah, you go to these countries, you go to India, you look at their import numbers and you look at our import numbers. And the last time I did a quick scan, those gaps exist.
But is it at the same level?
I don't know. I haven't done it.
Hold on. I think that we can all say that if that data is available as of December 2025, then we can all objectively see.
Yeah, but we haven't done the analysis of the data.
So let's just
what we know is that the gaps exist, and therefore there is smuggling, which is why
but the extent of the gap is an issue.
It's not difficult. The analysis.
No, listen. You read the Swiss Aid one. You saw that it was 45. You saw that the 2024 was 63. Isn't it just the same 100 we are getting?
I'm saying that one.
I want to listen.
The smugglers, they have a very structured incentive because when you don't pay tax, it's very difficult for margins such as 1%, 2% that we're talking about in gold trading to offset a 30% tax rate.
No, you are wrong against not 1%, 2%. You see, you don't understand the thing.
No.
What is not 1%?
That's all
the exchange rate differentials are in excess of 10%.
Which exchange rate differentials?
Oh gosh.
I'm saying that the margins that will enable the trader, the discounts and premium in the gold trade mechanism, that will enable the trader to feel that there's a benefit formalization is way smaller than the tax they avoid. That's a simple.
What is that tax? That tax is not on revenue for you to even be able to appreciate. It's on profit. What is the profit?
What is what profit?
What is the profit? Have you seen that?
If the mining company's cost of production
have they stopped existing as companies that GRA cannot go for?
Yes, because if you're a smuggler, your goal is to evade all accountability.
The smuggler, we are not interested in the smuggler. GoldBod does not go buy products from the smuggler. It buys products from the traders and the miners.
Yes.
So it is the miners matter you should be talking about.
The miner,
the smuggler. Who is interested in the smuggler?
The miner and the smuggler. If the miner was disclosing their actual output, they can't smuggle. If they were going to GRA, everybody and saying this amount of gold I'm producing, use my books, etc., then smuggling will not happen. So anytime you talk about smuggling, you start from the mine, because to smuggle, I'm coming. You lie about your output.
Yes.
Lying about the output means that you lie about your revenues.
Yes.
Lying about your revenues means that you lie about your profits.
Yes.
And if you do that, you're able to escape tax. If you escape tax at your level, production.
Again, subject to your cost.
Yes. You escape tax. Yes, subject to your cost.
But we all know they make profits. Whether they understate it, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Most of these people are not properly formalized. They are registered entities. They are not even formalized.
I think we've had the back and forth. Let me just explain it. So, as far as I'm concerned, the tax hit is bigger than the advantage they get from formalization. And therefore, when you want to stop smuggling, your primary targeting has to be law enforcement related, intelligence driven and things like that. It cannot only be incentives. So that's number one. Number two, once the smuggling continues to happen, which the GoldBod itself admits, and it continues to catch people, it continues to parade them before the media, etc., knowing therefore that it continues to exist, we must focus our minds not on the view that through some metaphysical mechanism they've cleared out all smuggling.
They haven't said that.
I'm coming.
But
we don't know the numbers.
But right,
the numbers are easy to extrapolate.
The one I know.
You see, we are making this very difficult.
You sat down, you got to create some model that everybody knows.
No, but I'm building my point.
The basic simple one that anybody can see.
You are not helping my discussion.
So as far as I'm saying, as far as it goes, the smuggling dynamic is hard to estimate, but we know that the incentives have not changed. When we go to the importing side and we look at the numbers, our data suggests that those gaps persist.
What data do you have for 2025 to say that it persists? Don't say our data. Show us the data.
I'll show you the data.
Show us the data.
I'll show you the data right now.
Okay, say it.
No, let me
say it. You still keep pontificating that you have something. You don't have it. That data doesn't exist.
What data doesn't exist?
The data for 2025. You went to UAE. Tell us what UAE said. Tell everybody what UAE told you. That you are telling us that it still shows that there are gaps still exist.
Tell us how we get our data.
We are waiting. Tell us.
Wait.
How Bright, why you don't know? Be patient.
Why are you doing this?
That factor that data doesn't exist. So tell us the data. So I said tell us.
We have data from off-takers, etc., which we because of the kind of work that we do.
What work?
We know, for instance, that the amount of gold that goes to specific off-takers,
who are those off-takers?
Sovereign, Pinnacle, etc., which are not disclosed by the GoldBod. We have had people who have disclosed data to us, as an example.
From where? From Pinnacle. Pinnacle disclosed to you.
I'm saying that we have data.
So tell everybody the data is okay.
I put it out on my blog.
Then what's the gap?
Which gap?
So tell us here, what's the gap? What's the gap that still exists?
No, then I'm not able
you
to
are shouting. You shout first. When you say I shouldn't shout.
Yeah, because I'm the one on the floor trying to explain
so
my
situation. So that means you shout?
No, I think you are being disruptive. Let me take.
This is what we do. Then we don't explain anything.
No.
I'm saying
answer the question simply.
What's the number?
Do you want to host the show now?
No. You
there's a step-by-step. There's a step-by-step analysis. One analysis is that we have data of gold trade in Ghana that is not disclosed by GoldBod, and we put that on our blog, which allows people who go to our blog to see how much data, gold, for instance, is going to the likes of Sovereign and the rest.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, that same source of data have given us data that tells us that the gaps are persistent, but it's not comprehensive data. It's example data, which I will show.
But it doesn't give a quantitative amount of whether the gap is reducing or not.
No, it doesn't give the whole period. So we have like a specific month. There is the disclosure on the Ghana.
So will it be useful if at a certain period time T, we all know whether that gap has reduced or not?
That's what we are aiming for. So what we are doing now.
So that will help the discussion when we know that.
The reason we haven't brought it out is because it doesn't cover the entire period.
Good.
It's for specific months.
Good.
Okay.
So when we get when we get the full period, all of us.
All I'm saying is that there is evidence, as far as I'm concerned, that there is still a gap between what the importer declares and what we as exporters declare.
Fair enough.
Given that fact, there is potentially smuggling ongoing, which the GoldBod doesn't deny. The second very critical point is that when Theo was talking about the fact that, we now have excess reserves in the Bank of Ghana, obviously they must intervene, he forgets a critical, important early stage, which is that if we hadn't centralized the gold in this way, there will still be gold flowing in different ways. So for instance, gold dollars flowing in different ways, some of which will end up in the commercial banks, for which reason they may not even need the central bank's intervention. So if you don't take into account all the counterfactuals, and you assume that, all the gold that we have in reserves, all the dollars now we have that have increased in reserves, is allowing intervention, forgetting why the intervention is sometimes needed. They're not, covering the full picture.
You've made 2 points. Let me take Theo's reaction to that quickly. Theo, let me take your comment on.
Let me make one last point. The other last point is that we always talk about the dollar side of things, but a very critical element of the exchange rate is also the exchange rate is a price. It's the price of the dollar.
Yeah.
One thing that affects all prices is supply and demand. So when you have a lot of CDs chasing dollars, you will naturally have the dollar appreciating. So contractual policies, like he said, which knock out CDs are equally effective when you are trying to control the exchange rate. So you cannot have an analysis where you look only at the supply of dollars without looking at the liquidity and sterilization angle. And our argument is that as part of the intervention program, the Bank of Ghana sterilizes heavily using open market operation bills, such as the Bank of Ghana bills. And that sterilization, where they sell these bills at a certain interest rate to mop out CDs, also has an effect. So you are taking all of this into account.
You still believe your 55.
And so the intervention is not just the dollar coming in. It's the fact that, in our view, the way they get the dollar has been leading to massive sterilization. And when you combine all of those effects, you get the current rate that we have. So you cannot isolate that and say, is the GoldBod bringing maybe 60% of all the dollars they are using, and therefore we should attribute all the benefit to the
Let me take Theo's reaction to what has been said so far, especially if there's data on whether there's actual reduction in smuggling. Theo, I just want to take your comment on that and your reaction to what's been going on so far.
No, a few interesting points I want to address, starting with the point about whether or not, if the central bank was not through GoldBod and through the other mechanisms it's working on, was not involved, right, in trying to channel these additional monies, which in any case would have actually left the system. There is nothing in the data that I have looked at or seen so far that shows that most of those dollars hitherto was coming through the formal banking channels that Bright tries to talk about, right? If you did a proper disaggregation and you did all the sort of analytical work, I would think that the proportion of those hitherto gold dollars from the ASM sector, right, that was coming into the formal banking channels is probably going to be on a scale of about 20 or 30 or so, right, percent. But what is radically different this time around is that you are, in a sense, through policy, trying to force them to get or bring those dollars into your formal channels via GoldBod and then ultimately to the central bank, right? So what you have done is basically to push strongly to get the dollars coming in to a more formal channel. What that means is that now you have additional inflows that you have visibility on. Hitherto, you did not have any visibility. And this is why this is extremely, for me, very important, right? Because if it was just the IMF reforms that Bright is talking about and others have spoken about in the response, I can tell you that the cedi would have been in a relatively worse shape than we are now. What I mean by that is that your exchange rate would not have ended the year at 10.45 or 10.5. It would have moved from maybe just 15 to maybe like 13 or something like that. And this is why this is very, very important. So you go to the IMF own assessment, right, which buttresses this point in paragraph 33. And then they say that the Bank of Ghana is actively managing the FX market while increasing its footprint. Since program approval, the bank has taken an increasingly active role as an intermediary in the FX market on the back of stronger balance of payment inflows. And then it goes further to say that the domestic gold purchase program has been the key source of these inflows, which also includes cocoa and repatriation and so forth and so on. And then it goes further to say, well, in addition to this, and they need to address, right, some of the sort of other risks that I imagine as a result of these additional inflows that hitherto was not coming as a result of the implementation of the
domestic gold those inflows are not due only to GoldBod. They also due to price effects.
It says
that commodities.
Now
so how can you just ignore
both volume, but it's in tonnage and also in value.
No. There is the money you need, and the monetary equivalent includes the price value.
We agree, but without
taking into account the fact that the price has
are you disagreeing that there's been an sharp increase in the volume of gold accumulation by the central bank?
Yeah, but that doesn't have any effect on the exchange rate directly.
No, but
so it's the intervention we are talking about.
No, but Bright.
The gold that is in the reserve.
Yes,
that is in the reserve.
Yes,
it's not what is being used for the intervention.
Do you realize that it signals the market?
Of course, it's a sentiment
builder.
So
why do you think that the reserve as built does not influence the rate of
the market?
And then the market sentiment about the stability of your currency.
The specific quote
yes,
about the inflows and how that inflows goes into the market footprint. That is not about the sentiment. So on the terms of how much money goes into the market, the biggest driver has had to be the price. Not only because that increased the amount of actual money.
No, but Bright, hold on. Right. Listen, let's not complicate issues.
Yeah.
The amount of dollars you have to support the currency, there's a wide range of things. If you have more gold, and the gold has a better price. It's a volume and values thing. So you look at the gold tonnage and the gold price.
That's the export.
Yes.
So when you export,
yes,
and the price is now double what it was last year.
Yes.
Even if you exported the same volume, you have double that money. You agree, right?
Yeah, but the gold reserve program, the central bank does purchase gold.
Yes, and that one it keeps in reserve, which has a sentiment effect.
Yes.
But you're talking about the actual money that goes into intervention.
Yes.
And I'm saying that when you export,
yes,
and if the price has doubled, then even if you export the same volume, you get double, right? Okay. The second thing is that because the price has doubled, a lot of mines that are currently marginal are able to increase production because the price is better.
So which price is more? I want to ask which mines? We have two sectors, ASF and then we have last year. So which ones are marginal?
Both, because the dollars marginal mines. The dollars don't think that the dollars
do marginal mines.
But you are aware we have
not. ASF does not do marginal mines.
You are aware we've interrupted those points.
The dollars that go into the Bank of Ghana inflows to do these things. It's not only from the small scale sector. The large mining sector also does surrender. So the effect of prices on their contribution have also increased.
Correct.
Even their profits, if it increases, and now there's a growth and sustainability levy, and that money which goes to the government, if the government sells some of that money back to the central bank, all of that increases the amount of resources.
After the price issue, we can't downplay.
I'm saying that we cannot have an analysis like Dr. Champon is doing throughout, suggesting that all those inflows have nothing to do with external market conditions. That's all I wanted to draw attention to.
No, but I think the question is the degree.
That's what I did. That's why I broke it down.
Your degree is totally wrong. Your model, you should show it to everybody. Your model does not make sense for me.
You are not being
so
helpful.
show us. When he was interacting this man,
I cannot show it to you today. I can't carry it.
Please put it out there. You have been posting notice. I put a link. And then we'll see the link. And we can't critique. Your model,
like today, for instance,
does not add up. It doesn't.
Bernard,
in finance
for instance,
or in economics.
I put out something that many people are not aware. But many people tell we started domestic gold purchase.
Yeah.
Domestic gold purchase, we are actually a late comer. We are like, if you think of the 8 countries that do most domestic gold purchase, Ghana is like last but 2 or so. Countries like Ecuador, Philippines have been doing it for a long time with different design.
Agreed.
So I put it out today because we finished the analysis of how their system differ from us and how their system is better. So we are going to put all this stuff out.
I have a last question for the panel. Whilst we all agree that on the exchange rate, monetary side, things have looked good, I think there's still a financing problem facing all African countries, Ghana being included. Concessional financing is not increasing. Domestic sources are getting exhausted. Commercial Eurobonds are not viable. There's the prejudice rates that they charge us. So whatever success the Mahama administration has achieved, you from the finance minister has to admit that if you look at the ambitious infrastructure plans this government has, they still need to answer the financing question as to where they are going to raise the right type of money to finance our development. I think we cannot agree on this. Theo, I'll start with you on this. This is my last question.
Oh, that is not an issue at all. I mean, that everybody understands. It's a fundamental point that needs to be addressed, right? That yes, you have a bit of a headwind on the external side that we are enjoying at the moment, but fundamentally, what do you do to raise additional revenue and live within your means? And this is where, for example, my job or role at the MOF becomes kind of extremely important. Again, also because, markets and people are watching, and it's okay. When you leave the program midpoint next year, right? What safeguards are there in place? And this is, for me, where the ongoing reforms that we're doing and the results of that becomes increasingly even more important in sending the correct signal to the market that the gains that we have made in 2025 can and will be sustained in 26 and 27. So let me talk through about 11 things.
Hey, you have less than a minute. You can't talk 11 things.
No, I won't go through all of them.
You have just like a minute.
Yeah, so I'll just mention a few of them. But the critical things that we're doing on the fiscal side of the equation, right? I talked initially about the independent oversight, the fiscal council and the fiscal anchors. The big thing that is also working currently is the issue of expenditure commitment control. So we have this commitment authorization system that is now working. And if you don't have the spending, you don't have a payment order for it, it's not been approved and authorized, and it doesn't find its way in the budget, forget, it's not going to be paid for. There's also a lot of work being done now on the on efficiency, right? Spending efficiency review. So the budget talked about the independent value for money office. That is being done. The enabling legislation is being worked on. There's also things done around procurement, tightening.
I'll do a separate show on this. I just wanted you to admit that.
Okay. For sure, I agree.
That for 2026 going forward, the key question is to get the right financing at the right price for our development. I think we all agree on that. So as for the 11 things, I will give you another opportunity to explain all of that.
Don't worry. Don't worry. But the financing, yes, is being addressed for sure. I mean, we are not going to the capital markets to borrow.
But we have not talked about all the challenge in the IMF program.
We can't.
In the budget.
Yeah, we have only 1.5 hours, and I have run out of time. I can't even take your concluding comments. Unfortunately.
This is not fair.
Yes, because you are not treating me fairly in the interview.
So
you let me end the show, then you can continue.
But you don't want to, look, this is very critical. Let's get it very clear.
The show is over.
The projections he made are absolutely flawed in finance. And I explain.
He's 55, 45.
It's flawed. But it's not in economics, it's not in finance. And that's why I say you should put a model. I'll explain to you. One, you should remember very well, the father of finance. You should remember, Eugene Farmer. And remember what they said? He told us about the efficient market hypothesis.
We are all MBAs here.
You understand? I saw what I get.
So you can't claim something is fraud.
So you cannot. If you did your MBA well, you should know this one. If you did your MBA well, you should know this one.
I have to apologize.
Every information that is available public is priced into the value of an asset.
So this has nothing to do
with
the
fact that different policies contribute to
the program has ended. The good news is that both Bright and Senyo have published what they will say. So if you want more information about their views, you can go to his blog. You can also go to some of the articles he's published and read what they've written. Thank you so much for watching tonight's edition of the show. Sometimes tempers get high, but we are good friends. We'll see you next time. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.